Hundreds of years ago, the Guarani Indians named this river Paraná, brother of the sea. The Paraná's rich wetlands harbor a vast array of wildlife. Here, nature reigns in all her abundant glory. All creatures, great and small, have their place. They share the natural splendor with the people who have long been here, living simply from the river's bounty. It might have remained this way forever, but now a specter looms over this fragile paradise. For 20 years, they've been building a colossal dam, the Porto Primavera hydroelectric plant. It's 7 miles long. Located in south-central Brazil, it's one of the largest in South America. A mammoth project with a life of its own. In November 1998, what many environmentalists had been fearing happened. The floodgates were closed, and the river began overflowing its banks. With an environmental time bomb already ticking, the state-owned builder of the dam financed an emergency animal rescue operation. In just 3 weeks, water would be over the treetops. It had become a race to save the animals. Leading one of the rescue squads is Tiang Pantanero.
We're fighting to save all the animals. As the water rises, the animals look for somewhere to go. The ones that can't reach higher ground wind up stranded. So we are here to save them.
In the first few days of flooding, the water rises quickly, flushing thousands of smaller animals out of their lairs and hollows. A dozen teams ply the rising water. There are snakes everywhere here. Their haunts flooded, they take to the trees. Leather gloves are the only thing between this man's skin and this angry snake's needle-sharp fangs. Teams scramble to fill their nets with whatever they may stumble upon. There's no time to waste. Wetlands are one of nature's richest environments. The range of species at risk here is tremendous. The task these teams face is unimaginable. Sadly, for many of these animals, their only future will be in research institutes or zoos. A family of monkeys has taken refuge in a large dead tree. A young monkey, terrified by the roar of the engines, makes a run for it.
It's quite an adventure. You try to catch the animals as best you can and not to hurt them. The animals are already suffering in there. Are you gonna hurt them more? No.
There are still other monkeys up the tree, and the rescue team will try anything to get at them. For a mother and her infant, it's a desperate moment. The frightened baby falls off her back. Chiang fishes it out of the water as its mother runs back up the tree. Another rescuer climbs up after her. A large male is the last to be caught. Rescue teams make every effort to keep the family groups together. But under these conditions, it's hard to keep track. They may be separated forever. A ferry boat serves as the clearinghouse for all the animals caught on the river. Paulo Bezerra is the coordinator of mammal relocation. An agronomist raised in this region is deeply worried about the flooding of the reservoir.
They're flooding the reservoir at a critical time, the rainy season, to fill it up quickly. It's tragic because this time of year many of the animals have just given birth. We've got to rescue as many as we can, because you know we're going to lose a lot.
During these critical days, Paulo will transport thousands of animals out of the flooded area. Even as he works, the landscape around him is changing, the familiar roads disappearing before him. The battle over Porto Primavera began when construction started in 1980. Back then, Brazil was still a dictatorship. Opposition to the dam was ignored. After democracy was restored, environmental protests helped to hold the project in check for years, amid claims it would destroy 900 square miles of wetlands in exchange for relatively little electricity. But after 20 years, with costs soaring to over $9 billion, this juggernaut couldn't be stopped. The dam's builder is known as CESP. It supplies virtually all of the electricity consumed by Sao Paulo, Brazil's most populous state. Although the dam is controversial, CESP is recognized as an industry leader in addressing environmental concerns. Its Director of Environment is Daniel Salacci.
Obviously, it's impossible to say there's no negative effect on the environment. There's always going to be a negative impact with this kind of operation. Therefore, it's CESP's job to try to minimize this impact. In terms of the environment, we've already spent around $250 million here. I'd say that's a reasonable amount.
As the water inches upward, Mauricio Barbanci is studying the impact of the flooding on the Servo.
Brazil depends on hydroelectric plants for its energy, and the Servo inhabit exactly the spot where these plants are built. Every year, with every new plant, we lose more Servos.
In anticipation of the flooding, Mauricio and his team are in a race against time to capture every Servo they can. Mauricio gets ready for a risky maneuver. He'll only get one chance at this one. Mauricio holds the animal down until his assistants can join him. It's a doe. She's blindfolded to lessen the panic. Servos are notoriously nervous animals. The trauma of this moment could lead to a heart attack. A member of the team administers a sedative. It will put her to sleep for the journey to come. A truckload of animals arrives at the remote farm where Paulo has set up operations. He has been working on their relocation for hours, and there's no end to the cages as more trucks arrive throughout the night. Veterinarian Kelly Bonash is a volunteer working alongside Paulo.
The work we do is difficult. It's not easy being stuck out here, but you have to have the courage to do something. You won't be able to save 100% of the animals, but even if we save 5%, you are doing your part. You are helping.
They'll keep on sorting out the animals all night. No one knows how many they'll have to handle. The only thing certain is that the water continues to rise. 15 days into the rescue operation, the reservoir is more than half full. Half-drowned trees are slowly strangled by the growing river. The confused animals are in a state of panic. Exhausted rescue teams work 10-hour days in 15-day shifts. It's hard, demanding work with no end in sight. Surrounded with no place to run, the monkeys are frightened and bewildered. But if they're not caught, the alternative is certain death. The stress is tremendous, both on the rescuers and the rescued. Sometimes it's difficult to remember you're here to help. For these frenzied monkeys, the experience is nothing short of terrifying. For all these animals, survival depends in part on how they're treated while in the hands of their benefactors. The flood is changing this region's whole way of life. It's the eternal dilemma of development. What's to be gained versus what must be lost. Two local fishermen have pictured the twilight of an era in the words of a song.
We all need electricity. People can't get along without electricity, so we have to have the hydroelectric plant. Besides, nature will replenish itself.
This is a catastrophe. Look at these animals. It's hard for anyone who loves nature to see these creatures lose their habitat.
The rescue team dealing with the servos faces perhaps an even more cruel dilemma. For Mauricio, there's a growing sense of futility.
These rescue operations are nothing more than shows for the public. Most likely, all of these animals will be lost.
The servos cannot be relocated. Returned to nature, they would only compete for increasingly scarce food and space. Those that survive the capture will live out their lives in captivity.
The public has to realize that these animals are dying. They won't all be saved. People have to decide, which do they prefer? Do they want the air conditioner running all day long? Or do they want the servos in the wetlands of Brazil?
The water rises steadily. The reservoir is nearly full.
Soon all the leaves will fall, and there'll just be bare branches. And after a few years, the branches will rot and fall, until there's only the surface of the water.
At Paolo's remote farm, Kelly and her team are working on a group of rescued monkeys. These animals have never known captivity. They've been through an ordeal, and it's not over yet. First, each monkey is tranquilized. Each one will receive a color-coded necklace and be tagged so that their progress can be monitored.
We might not be able to save all these animals. That would be impossible. But what's important is the few we do save will teach us a lot about what to do the next time around, at the next hydroelectric plant.
As for Paolo, this world he has lived and worked in all his life is coming to an end. Although he believes in the rescue, he dreads the change that it signifies.
I want to bring my son out here to see this land before it's gone. I'm seeing things that my son will never see, that my grandchildren will never have the chance to see. I keep telling my family the children better come quickly because it's going.
In the 3 weeks since the flooding began, some 300,000 acres have disappeared beneath the water. Now, little remains above the surface. Chung and his rescue team check the debris. This lone monkey, tired and desperate, may never find her group again. A floating tangle of roots and earth turns out to be a den of foxes. Chiang and his team are their only way out. wears on, Chiang continues his mournful duty. A few miles away from the flooding, a hopeful event is about to take place. Paolo and Kelly have reached the distant woods where they plan to release the captured monkeys. It's what so many of the rescuers have been working for. For Paolo and his team, this is the moment. This large male doesn't follow all the others in this group. Alone and in unknown territory, he goes off in the other direction.
These monkeys were all supposed to be from the same group, but we can tell from the way they ran off in different directions that they are not. They were probably gathered up from the same area, but they are not from the same family. It's going to be hard for them out here all alone without a group. But as they eat and grow, maybe they'll find a new leader and be able to form a new group. Since we set them free in nearby areas, and there's both males and females, there's a good chance of this happening. At least that's what we're hoping for. It's great to know that you saved the whole group that would have died in the flood, that you got them out and cared for them and kept them alive. And then to see them climbing up a tree, you say, wow, just a little bit. I was able to help nature a little bit. I did something.
This monkey group may finally be safe, but the world they knew is gone, never to be seen again. Another casualty in the ongoing battle between development and the environment in Brazil and around the world. Although the power company says it will never build a dam of this size again, it is currently building 2 more large-scale hydroelectric plants.